1 and 2, and then they showed obviously Terrifier 3, and I also saw Smile 3, Smile 2.
So Terrifier. Here's the thing.
Yeah,
I know about Terrifier because my sister is a sicko,
yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. And you know
and
what?
that's
I would say no judgment on your sister, but absolute judgment on your sister.
because
Like,
here's the thing. Like I know about the Terrifier movies from their infamy. You know,
yes. Yeah, yeah,
they are gore fests that are kind
yeah,
of bordering on snuff.
yeah.
Tell me,
Okay,
Dara,
so
what is it? What is it about Terrifier? Because Terrifier 3 has been doing shockingly well,
yeah,
I would say.
yeah. I'm actually like, there's a couple of movie reviews I want to do for this channel. So if anyone's listening to us on Phoenix FM, please go over to Nerd to Know Media on YouTube. We drop some more content there. I will eventually get around to doing some reviews, some long-term form thoughts on this, or even short videos on this, because I've actually been trying to figure that question out, because I have a couple of friends who love Terrifier, and the band, we love horror movies as well. So we were kind of like, we obviously seen all the Terrifier movies, and the third one is a bit too much. So I'm going to answer your question before I get into that one. So look, so the main appeal really, I think, is just one, it's like proper grind. It's grindcore. It's like
Mm,
grindy, grindhouse, throwback 80s slasher. Practical effects everywhere, and it's goofy and silly, right? I mean, like, and the character as well, Art the Clown, has been a big selling point as well because he's so goofy. But
that's it. I've seen the gifs of Art the Clown just mugging for the camera.
then it's like he'll mug to the camera and then do the most brutal murder ever, you know? And it's like, I guess the appeal is that kind of juxtaposition, particularly in what I want to just park tree for a second. So the first one, again, I never saw them before. The first time I saw them was at this double screening because I was like, okay, I haven't seen them. I do want to see them. I might as well go see them in a very unique format because they weren't in the cinema. They never got a cinematic release, one and two.
Mm,
So they were funded on Kickstarter as well, which is even more wild. So this is like a very these movies knew their audience, worked their audience, and then the second one kind of blew up and became even more successful than they could possibly imagine. So the first one is very, very low budget. Like, it has a budget, but it's barely there. It's very self-contained, but it's so brutal. Like, I won't go into it too much. I might do it in a later video, but it basically covers these two girls. They're on a night out on Halloween. They find this clown finds them, and he just kind of follows them around. He disappears, and the girl has to go to the bathroom. She ends up going to this bathroom in like this rundown, condemned building, and Art finds them and starts picking them off.
mm.
And more people can get involved in this, and it gets known as this like massacre. Um, and the movie is set up by this girl saying, "Look, last year I survived this massacre. Her face is all mangled up." And then that's the story they're telling. At the end of it, Art dies, and it's revealed that the girl who was at the beginning of the movie was in that massacre, and she was the sister of the girl who was on the night out, right? So that's the big twist, and it's a good movie. It's like, okay, it's fine. It's not that bad. There are one or two pretty bad scenes in it, where you're like, oh, that's, like,
That's a bit much.
yeah, but the violence is like, in horror movies, the way there's the last girl and you think she's gonna be all
Yeah.
right. I mean, like, the last girl gets her face eaten off. You know,
Okay.
that's
Right.
that's yeah. There's no holding back, right? So the second one, so obviously that was my impression of it, and then there was a bit of an intermission, and I saw the second one, and I was like, wait a minute, a lot more money in this. There's a much more of a story. There's actual characters in it, and Art is still there, being Art. Like, he gets revived. He gets revived by some satanic demon, and he's going off on this
Okay.
on this new mission. And you're like, okay, fair enough. They're kind of going this direction. The soundtrack is banging as well. It's so good. The soundtrack for Terrifier 2, look it up on Spotify, it is really, really good. But the kills are more extreme. Like, it's not just like, oh, he, would kill this person and that's it. No, he like actively enjoys doing it. So he'll make them suffer as much as possible. and then kill them. It's like I think that's what why the appeal is there because it's like there's this sadism with this character where you're like, oh, you actually think it's funny. You think it's funny to like brutal. It's the appeal of the Joker, right? Like we'll get to that in a second, so park that one. Um,
Put a pin in that.
but it actually is like
Yeah,
that murderous clown thing with the volume maxed and it's peaking, right? So I think that's why people like enjoy it because he's having a wonderful time while he's doing this
it
most,
is.
you know,
The entire thing is just cranked up to 11.
to
Is what
11.
I'm
Yeah,
hearing. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So and there's a bit in that specifically. It's known as the bedroom scene. So if anyone's seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And basically, he does horrible things to this girl, keeps her alive until her
Mm.
mom walks in, so she can see her daughter can see her mom,
Mm.
and it's just like it's horrific, right? But he's having a wonderful time, so he's laughing his head off the whole time, but he's completely silent. And then the very next scene is he's serving Halloween candy in the mom's head, and everybody thinks it's a joke. So it has just these like it's like tension, shock and tension release, where it's just like, oh my God, that's awful, but also that's hilarious.
Like
And this guy's
it's
really goofy.
so it's so like down it's so plummeted down the line of black comedy that it has kind of almost come out the other end.
Yeah, exactly. And I like why the second one again, it that bedroom scene it's a tough watch. Like when I was 16, I watched the first three Hellraisers in a row and I got up on my stomach went to it. Like it actually physically dropped because I was
Yeah,
just like, oh, that really was a lot,
yeah.
I didn't
And
get that with
tell
the
me this, Dara. How was this watching? How was watching this with like a big room full of people?
See, oh, it was actually a great time, right? Because everyone was in there. Everyone like watching the first two, everyone in there was a fan or kind of
Okay.
or was there to watch it because it was a one-time thing. I know they did it in other cinemas, but I just happened to see it in Cineworld in the city, and I was like, okay, this is great, and it was a really really fun experience, Um, it obviously built up to the third one. So as I said, I was a big fan of the second one. I will still say if you're gonna watch any of them, watch the second one. It's kind of self-contained, and it's a fun movie for as brutally violent as it is. The third one,
With that little asterisk there.
yeah, no, I mean, look, if you're in any way sensitive, don't watch it. If you don't like slashers, if you don't like 80s schlock, like the first two are complete schlock. 80s movies like Chop Mall and that kind of stuff. That's what you're looking at. You're not here for anything other than that. You're here for complete 80s throwback schlock, right?
Yeah, if the Rob Zombie House of a Thousand
Yeah,
Corpses does anything
yeah.
for you, this is in that avenue. Yeah,
It's a much better movie though. I'll be honest with you. They're actually good movies.
fair.
The third one, on the other hand, though, right? It's like I was watching the director talk about it, and he's like, everybody likes Art the Clown too much. You're not supposed to like Art the Clown, which is true. I mean, this kind of happened in the 80s with Freddy Krueger, where everybody loved Freddy Krueger, and you really shouldn't like Freddy Krueger.
No,
Again, look up his backstory on a five. We can't really mention it too much.
no,
Um,
no.
but that's what he never should have been a children's Halloween costume. It shouldn't have been a kid's cereal, quite the opposite. And Art the Clown was kind of on had to do that, where he was like, it was an anti-hero kind of thing in some way, but no, earned for no reason, like there's no reason to like him. He's objectively an awful man and then an awful demon. And in the third one, they're like, yeah, we really have to push this. So there's stuff in the third one that, while it isn't as violent as the second movie, the second one is objectively probably the most violent one. It's mean-spirited. And I don't
Mm.
like that. I mean, like, there's no reason for him to do what he does, like, other than find it funny, which I know it's a bit of a bit of a contradiction, but it just comes off as mean, where it's like he freezes the Santa to death. The Santa's still alive, and then he hacks the Santa up. It's like, and he's still alive. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
Yeah,
that's and the
it
whole movie
it
is
it.
the whole movie is kind of filled with that. And then there's like the big controversy in this as well is he kills a lot of kids. Now they don't die on camera because that's one line that the director didn't want to watch. Like, there's no gleeful hacking up of kids, which
Okay,
again, that's you know, I think that's a bridge too far for anybody.